This is a presentation about the Greek economy, and we're going to talk about the recent developments and prospects. Just to give you the roadmap of the presentation, I will talk about the recent economic developments. I'm going to talk about the current account and competitiveness, the fiscal developments, and I will stay a little bit on the fiscal developments. I think they are important at this particular point of time. I'm going to talk a little bit about money, credit, and interest rates, financial markets. I'm going to give you an economic outlook. We are currently at an embargo, so really I cannot say much about our projections, but I can give you a hint, and I will complete with the structural reforms. Just in case that I exceed the 15 minutes time that I got, let me start with some takeaways. I think we all agree that we live in an international environment of high uncertainty. And in this particular environment, the Greek economy remains resilient. So this implies that we got and we have seen an economic growth in 2024, a growth of 2.3% increase, which is higher compared to the euro area average that was 0.9% and will remain like that in the current year, in 2025. And at the same time, we see a disinflation process, but it's a kind of low, and I will explain why is that. Now, growth is based on private consumption and investment, and private consumption actually is related to an increase in real disposable income. Why is that? Because we got tight labor markets. The labor market, not only in Greece, but also in the euro area, is kind of tight. So we have seen an increase recently in nominal wages. At the same time, we have seen an increase in investment thanks to the RRF. So as I said before, GDP growth is higher compared to the potential. The potential, according to our estimates, the average potential growth for the next 10 years is something like 1.9% increase, higher compared to the other euro area countries. Positive labor market developments, as I said, labor market is tight, unemployment is declining. Current account deficit, yes, was high last year in 2024, 6.4% deficit of GDP compared to 6.2% of GDP in 2023. And why is that? Because there is an increase in imports of capital goods. And why we need that? We need to support RRF. So until 2026, we're going to see RRF to be completed. It is expected that we're going to see a current account deficit of this particular order. How much of this one is cyclical and how much is structural? According to our estimates, current account deficit, the structural, is about 5% of GDP. Now, what is important to remember is what is happening in the fiscal front. Fiscal developments are extremely positive compared to what happened 15 years ago. We got a primary surplus of 4.8% of GDP, higher compared to expectations in the budget, compared to the Ministry of Finance expectations, compared to our Bank of Greece expectations. And the other thing that is important to remember is that in Greece, as I said before, we got inflation decreasing, but at a decelerating pace. But compared to the other euro area countries, we see a complementarity between fiscal and monetary policy. Monetary policy is restrictive. According to our estimates, is still at a restrictive territory, DFR is 2.25%, and according to our estimate, R star is about 2% in nominal terms. So we believe that it's still in a restrictive territory. And fiscal policy at the same time is contractionary. So this kind of complementarity about the two policies is the right mix to decrease further inflation. Real estate. In real estate, we have seen housing prices to increase. Housing affordability is a major concern, and we have seen different programs announced by the Greek government, My Home 1 and My Home 2, just to increase housing affordability. Credit growth has been increased, and financing conditions expected to improve in the years to come, also thanks to the expected drop in the policy rates. Greek banks' profitability is high, as you know, and despite the financial market turbulence that we have seen, the spread between the Greek government bonds and the German bonds remain pretty much constant. We've got the risks. The main risk, obviously, is what is happening in trade, and is based on what is happening on the other side of the Atlantic with the imposition of tariffs. I think this creates a lot of uncertainty. And obviously, another risk will be related to the RRF underutilization. Now, at the same time, Greece is a top performer in the product market reforms. And why is that? Because according to our view as Bank of Greece, during the crisis, we have seen a lot of reforms in the labor market, but not enough in the product market. I think what we see the recent years is also reforms in the product market. Further reforms in the product market, I think they're going to reduce also the current account deficit. So this is a slide where I show the recent state of play in the global environment. I think it's amazing that there is an increase in the US effective tariff rate. In 2024 was 2.5%, and today is 25%, and this changes every day because they change their mind about the level of tariffs. At the same time, we have seen lower oil prices. And why is that? Because from many analysts there is expectation. There are expectations that we're going to see a recession in the US or in other countries. Now, Greece, as you see, I go back to what I said before about growth, just to be a little more specific. You see that Greece is performing better compared to the other euro area countries. This is, you can see in my first graph on the left-hand side. And where we stand today in 2025, let me use some soft indicators. The blue line is Greece, red line is euro area. You see that clearly Greece is above the euro area average. What is happening with investment? Because was and it is a concern, we got an investment gap. Before the crisis was about 25% of GDP. Today is about 16% of GDP, but is increasing, so we are in the right path. Inflation. As I said before, inflation is decreasing, but at a decelerating pace. It's higher compared to the euro area average. Two reasons for that. First, Greek economy operates in a positive output gap. Number two reason, we got an increase in inflation of services. And why is that? Because we got a lot of of tourism. So this is affecting inflation of services. As I said, we expect to decline a little bit in 2025. Labor market developments extremely positive. Total employment kept rising. You see the numbers. I will not repeat. Unemployment is important, is on a downward path. In February, was 8.6%, so unemployment is declining. Current account, yes, as I said before, was higher in 2024 compared to 2023, thanks to the increase of capital goods to support RRF. This is the main reason. We expect to see an improvement, not a lot of improvement, but a little bit of an improvement this year. Now, this is a nice picture that you see on the right-hand side. Total travel receipts. In the past, when I gave the presentation, one asked me, and what about the climate crisis? Do you expect that climate crisis, because for me this is the main risk, do you expect that the climate crisis is going to affect your tourism revenues? And I said no. And this graph is the proof, because you see even the last year in July and August, the receipts are lower compared to 2023. Why? Because in Greece the weather was too hot, but people are not coming to Greece only for the nice weather or to go for swimming. They go to see Acropolis or the other archaeological museums. So what we have seen, a shift, an extension, so to speak, of the tourism season in October, November, and so on. We see a bumpy kind of thing of cost competitiveness. Depends a lot on the exchange rate, but not a major concern. And let me go to the fiscal developments. And I think I got time to explain this, and I think this is extremely important. Budget balance, the overall balance, so it's positive, it's a surplus. And how much is 1.3% of GDP, which is a lot. And primary balance, 4.8% of GDP, which is, again, a lot if you think that the target initially was 2.5% of GDP. And according to the Ministry of Finance, the estimate was 3.5% of GDP, and the same was our projection as well. Now, let's see also my last bullet, which is extremely important as well. What happened last year? Last year, the Greek government, PDMA, decided to prepay GLF. They prepaid GLF and they used the cash buffer. You know that we got a cash buffer, 15 billion from ESM. So they spent 5 billion to prepay GLF. And see what happens. What happens is that the cash reserves for the Greek government, for the general government, increase from 33 billion to 36 billion. So we spent money with interest rate of 1.5% interest, low, to buy GLF, so loans with higher interest rate, and the cash buffer increases. And why is that? Because it has been replaced by the money that have been produced by the budget balance. So with money of zero interest rate. And debt is at a declining path, was estimated 153.6% to 145 is going to be this year. This decrease was the highest between 2023 and 2024, was the highest among the euro area countries. Now, this is when I gave this presentation in the past, some people ask about the fiscal measures. What is happening with the fiscal measures? And because the government announced some fiscal measures, And you can see these expansionary fiscal measures of 1.1 billion. The first is to increase housing affordability. The second is to support people with low income, low pensions, as you can see. And the last one is to increase public investment, so to support growth, so to speak. The government obviously has the fiscal space, because when we talk about a primary surplus of 4.8% of GDP, there is fiscal space. You see that the fiscal stance was contractionary in 2024, and after this measure is expected to be expansionary in 2025. And the question is, do you see any fiscal loosening? And the answer is no. And why is no? Because someone should not think only about the primary balance outcome. What you got to think about is also the increase in the net national finance primary expenditure. And on the right-hand side, you can see the calculation. I will not go through the calculation, but what I will emphasize is the last part, which is the discretionary revenue measures. So if you got measures, then you are allowed to spend more. So for instance, I increase the tax rate, I expect that I'm going to receive more revenues, so I am allowed to spend more. What the Greek government did is reduce tax evasion. So by reducing tax evasion, they are allowed to add over there 1 billion euros. And this year, in 2025, 1.5 billion euros. So this is measures that the European Commission has accepted as a permanent measure, because over there you can add only the permanent measures, and this allows you to spend more. And did they spend more? No. In 2024, the change was zero. And now, because they spend less in 2024, they can spend more in 2025. How much more? Instead of 3.7 increase, 4.5% increase. Can they spend more? The answer is no. And you can see why is no, because you can see the last bullet, because you can increase the spending by only 0.3% of GDP. Percent of GDP, not change, percent of GDP. You are not allowed to go more than 0.3% of GDP. So this increase of 4.5% is the ceiling, so to speak. They cannot increase spending more. And another ceiling is the average that I got for 2025, 2026, which is an average of 3.4% increase. You cannot exceed this average as well. RRF, where we stand, probably I'm pretty sure you know the numbers. Up to now, Greece has received 8.6 billion grants, 9.6 loans. What is important, how much you receive or how much you spend? Clearly, how much you spend. Because how much you spend, this is going to be transmitted to the real economy, and this is going to affect the real economy and will give you growth and plus reforms. I got the numbers there. The yellow bar shows you how much the Greek government has received. The red is how much the Greek government spent. And the blue line, the light blue line, is how much has been transferred to other entities of the general government. So from the central government, for example, how much has been sent to the local authority, for instance. So 5.1 has been transmitted to the real economy and has affected the real economy, and the other is loans, same picture. So 3.6 billion has been transmitted to the real economy. But what is important in the case of loans is that not the amount of money that have been transmitted to the real economy, but the number of contracts. And the gray bar shows you the contracts. And for the time being, the contracts have a value of 7 billion. Why is that? Because the program is going to end in 2026, and for the next three years until 2029, once you got the contract, you can spend the money. So I finished this one. I don't know. I got 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah? Okay. Here is the increase in the deposits. You see that there is an upward trend coming mainly from the households. Now, this is the corporate loans, and I think this is also important to explain. We got an increase in corporate loans in 2024 and in 2025. You can see with the blue bar. Also consumer loans, but not housing loans. Housing loans have not been increased. Actually, they are. This is the net, by the way. But I should point out that the program My Home 1 and My Home 2 are not included in these numbers. Bank lending rates are at a declining path, thanks also to the decrease in the policy rates. We expect that the policy rates will be reduced further. The ECB policy rates will be reduced further until the end of 2025. Greece obviously has investment grade, and this is extremely helpful. And you can see some estimations of the parameters that we use in our internal models. And clearly, one of the main reasons why we have seen this upgrade, or so to speak, in the Greek economy is clearly due to the fiscal policy, but also to the structural reforms which are in the pipeline. This is what I said before, that we don't see really an increase in the spreads in GGBs compared to the German. Economic outlook, as I said, the momentum will continue in 2025, so we expect for the time being something like that. We are 2.3% increase. And I think the drivers will be the same, but what is important also to emphasize that I didn't say before is what we expect from the tariffs. From the tariffs, we expect 2 things. One is direct effect and the other indirect effect. The direct effect, we expect that it will not have an impact on the Greek economy because we export a little, something like 4% of our total exports to US. Indirect effect, yes, we're going to be affected by what is happening in the other Euro area countries and clearly from the uncertainty. Risks, I talk about this one. I see that my time is... Okay, structural reforms, we are top performer in the product market, reforming the product market. As I said, this is necessary to do that because during the crisis, we reform a lot of the labor market, and this is something that you can see, and I will not go through all the reforms which have been taking place in the labor market. So we have increased the flexibility in the labor market, but not in the product market. This is the time that we are doing this one. So we try to reform. Obviously, further reforms always are necessary because reforms are a moving target because always you have to compare yourself with what is happening to the other countries because this is going to help also to the external rebalancing of the economy. So more efforts should be placed on improving institutional efficiency. By the way, there are a lot of reforms which took place in the government, in particular to reduce tax evasion. This is why the Greek government is allowed to claim extra revenues from reducing tax evasion in a permanent manner. Clearly, aligning education with the labor market needs and investment in the renewable energy and digitalization. This is something also that we see in the projects which are related to the RRF, and obviously a strong and competitive banking system. And let me stop here. I hope that I did not exceed a lot of my time. Thank you very much.